Hey everybody, welcome to the SmartB Sports Update Podcast, episode 11. I'm just going to can doing that soon.
You got it in one this time, George.
I had to really concentrate on it. It's too much work for my poor brain. How you going, man?
How you going, John? How was your weekend, mate?
It was great. Friday was amazing. Saturday a little less so. And then Sunday was kind of boring.
Yeah, just the cricket last night to sort of keep us entertained, although not great news for the Aussie team, but we'll come to that later. There is another Aussie team that doesn't have great news today as well, John.
Australia has basically disappointed me in everything to do with my life right now. Wake up to our horror show.
Yeah, we do have plenty to talk about today.
So we can kick off with the NRL as normal, everybody's favourite. So Panthers versus Storm. Lucky for me, KO does do three screens.
You got the three screens going.
Yeah, so I plugged my laptop into the TV and I had the NRL up. There's the main one and then the AFL and the cricket on the side.
Are KO the only ones who do that? Does anyone else do that? Or?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I don't
need
use
to get
those.
KO then, don't I?
Yeah, I don't use those. I don't generally watch commercial television. What's it called?
Yeah, I don't think anyone does.
I forget that it's on. I will have to watch it on Sunday for the NRL Grand Final and Saturday for the AFL Grand Final.
Yes, I don't think Fox have them, do they? I think,
no, replays only.
Yeah, okay. I think the only games of the year where Fox don't have it are the Grand Finals and Origin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So did you get a chance to watch the game?
The NRL, yep.
Yeah,
watched all the games. Yeah, so
all of them, all two.
Yeah. Really good performance from the Panthers. Just clinical. Brian To'o, 3 tries. And now they're looking for their third premiership win in a row. So Parramatta were the last ones to do that in 81, 82 and 83.
Yeah, I think that Penrith just smashed them in the forwards, man. They were just dominating them all over the park on the forwards. What's his name? Nelson Asofa-Solomona was the best Storm player, but you can't have one forward taking on the entire Penrith pack.
Yeah, I got to say, John, that and it hasn't really been touched on by many people at all, but that hit that he put on Cleary, it was late. And I to be honest, I thought it was a low act. The hit from Asofa-Solomona.
That should have been a sin bin. And the ref said it was a sin bin.
He said on the mic he was going to send him to the sin bin and then he didn't.
And then he said, what was it? Because the excuse was he's giving him a shove or something. That wasn't a shove. He hit him, he hit him hard.
Yeah, hit him hard and late. Yeah, I thought that was a low act. I also thought the hit from Josh King on Cleary as well, which drew blood from his eye socket in the second half. I thought that was a low act as well. And given that it happened twice, you'd have to think there was a level of premeditation with it.
Yeah, that's not the tactic to shut down Penrith, just so you know.
Well, clearly not. And you know, that really disappoints me about the Melbourne Storm. I would have expected better from them.
What? Come on, Melbourne Storm's always been grubs. Get some hate onto the Melbourne there.
But yeah, I just, you sort of look at it and you go, well, why did they need to resort to that? Oh, well, maybe if you look at the scoreboard, that's why they needed to resort to that.
Well, they got smashed. What was the score again?
38-4.
Yeah, that was the biggest Melbourne's biggest loss since that, 40-0 grand final, right?
To Manly in 2008, John.
Whatever it was, 40. Was it 40-0?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Storm just didn't look like the Storm. I think they are in the middle of they made it pretty far, and we'll go over them in a minute. But they just looked all out of sorts. Penrith was smashing them. The forwards were just dominating them. I think, did I read that not a single Storm forward got 100 metres?
Yeah, you might be right there actually. But yeah, that 34-point win was the biggest by a team in a preliminary final in the NRL era. So since 1998. So that's Penrith getting revenge on Melbourne for losing the 2020 grand final to them. It's a 4th consecutive grand final for Penrith. Brian To'o was really good for the Panthers. John had 4 line breaks, 11 tackle breaks, and 164 run metres to go with those 3 tries, John.
I know I didn't read. So it was actually it was. None of the forwards ran over 100 metres. the Melbourne Storm forwards. They just got dominated out of the park. So
none of them ran over 100. Yeah, there you go.
The best all-run meters for Storm was Nick Meaney at fullback with 180.
He had a good finish to the season, which we'll get to Melbourne's season. I think it fell apart because some others didn't perform well. But Nick Meaney had a really strong finish to the season. So Penrith now won 5 of their last 6 against Melbourne, John. So that 2020 grand final, that's really a distant memory now. And,
that you can't. They keep bringing it up, but I think that's over.
I think that's done for now somehow.
People try and use it in the stats like we have. Storm did beat them in 2020 in the grand final, but well, what have they done since then? Yeah,
well, not by their standards, not a whole lot, John. Yeah. But Penrith had 53 tackle breaks compared to 25 by Melbourne. Just sensational performance from Penrith. Really well done. They're a club that's earned their success. It's a club full of local juniors. They haven't bought players in. So well done to Ivan Cleary and Nathan and
Phil Gould
and the whole Phil Gould and everyone else and
Cameron Ciraldo. Cameron Ciraldo. So like that and then there was the Jerome Luai thing as well, which so he didn't look underdone at all.
Yeah, and he got given an early mark as well.
20 minutes off. But he ran the ball right from the very beginning. He made tackles. I think that perhaps so. What the rumour is now is, the shoulder injury wasn't as bad as originally thought, but he will have to go for surgery after the season, so he'll miss the Pacific Championship, which he was going to play for Samoa for.
Yep. A few other stats on the game, John. So Penrith prop James Fisher-Harris, 84 metres from 10 runs in just the first 32 minutes of the game. A great start from him. Isaiah Yeo, I mentioned him before, 22 runs for 188 metres and made 34 tackles. So in the first half, Penrith had an astonishing 22 completions from 23 sets at 95%.
Oh, yeah,
by comparison, Melbourne had 11 of 17 at 64%. So there you go. And so in Penrith's last 8 finals games, John, which obviously they've all won, Penrith has conceded just 66 points. That's just 8.25 a game. That's astounding.
That's ridiculous.
Astounding numbers.
Yeah, you can tell why they're the best defensive team in the comp. Hopefully Cameron Ciraldo can take some of that over to the Bulldogs next year.
Yeah, well, we didn't see much evidence of it this year, John. Yeah.
You can look at I talked about the Melbourne Storm their forwards didn't run the ball. But every single one of the Penrith Panthers forwards pretty much got over 100 metres. I believe the only one who didn't was... Who was it? Mitch Kenny? Is he a forward? Yeah, he's a hooker. And he's the only one who didn't run over 100 metres. So that's perfectly fine that he didn't run over 100 metres. Ridiculous. I couldn't believe... I was watching it and I was just sitting there, like I was with my nephew who's a AFL. He was watching the GWS. And I was just in complete shock. In the end, about halfway through the second half, I changed the NRL to the smaller screen. And
the AFL,
it was like, no, you can go the way of the cricket now, bro.
I've got to say, John, I saw a story where there were people looking at Penrith's tactics in protecting Nathan Cleary, and the story seemed to be critical of Penrith, and my response to that would be, well, what do you expect them to do? The referee won't protect Nathan Cleary. The referee won't sin bin players who target Nathan Cleary late.
Hit him late,
and hit him late. What do you expect Penrith to do? If the referee won't do anything about it, well, they've got to take the matter into their own hands.
It's a nonsense, absolute nonsense story. People are going to find whatever they can right now to bring Penrith down, complain about them and say whatever. Yeah. It was the same when
Jealousy,
Melbourne...
they're jealous of their success.
It was the same when Melbourne was like that Penrith-type team, Melbourne were always grubs. But, that's a nonsense thing. They did what they have to do. Nathan Cleary... He's not exactly the most... Well, he's a pretty good defender, but, he's a halfback. Halfback has to be defended.
Yeah, I was furious watching it. I was filthy that, the best player in our game was treated in this way.
It was awful.
I thought it was... I thought it was disgusting.
Look, he made 12 tackles, Nathan Cleary, which is... it's fine, like that's all he needs to do, and you can protect him. They can protect him however they want because they have to. There's someone like Nelson Asafa Solomona, who is a massive human being, smashing into your halfback, who's a tiny little human being, late, super late, and smashing into him like at full pelt.
There's no excuse for that.
It warranted protection.
Yeah, there's no excuse.
I don't think it was a very good game, to be honest. I think it was a pretty crappy game, super boring because the Storm weren't competitive. There was a massive drama about the tickets because, obviously Suncorp sold out because Suncorp, leading up to the match, only 30,000 people had bought tickets to this game. And so what the NRL did was they released by 2 for the price of 1. Which, of course, anyone who had already bought tickets was like, what the hell, man? Like, I already bought tickets. But then in the last day, on Friday, they were giving the tickets away for free.
Oh, wow.
Now, when I was in the US, and I went and watched a basketball game, they had this actually thing, and I went and watched, it was this LA, I can't even remember who the teams were, to be honest. It was the other LA team, not the Knicks. No, wait, Knicks is, I don't know. And it wasn't the Lakers, it was the other LA team. Clippers. Thanks, producer John. Yeah, so it was the Clippers versus some other team, and that was like, they were coming like 3rd last and 5th last, right? Yep. So when we rocked up, I bought like super expensive tickets as well because we were in the US, we were doing something. And the whole entire area around me was empty, like fully empty. And they gave away a free T-shirt. There was a T-shirt on everything. They gave so much prize. Talked about before. So awesome, the sport in America. Halfway through the game, it suddenly like filled up. Like, people were sitting next to me. I asked the guy next to me, like, why you come late, man? And he said what happened was on the radio they announced, go down and you get free tickets, okay? And so him, and I can since confirm this with another American dude that I know, they talked about how in some leagues in America, they have a minimum attendance requirement, otherwise you get a fine.
Right,
the team gets a fine.
Right.
And
there'd be a lot of fines handed out in the NRL.
Well, this is the thing. The fine is often so large, it's actually better for the team to buy all the tickets and then hand them out. And so that's what had happened with this Clippers team, right? Because no one wanted to watch them. Then they, halfway through, they're like, crack, we're not going to meet the attendance requirement. We're going to get fined. So they bought all the tickets and gave them away on the radio. And the stadium then went 3/4 full, after halftime. And it is a crappy go for if you bought the tickets and then they give them away for free. But at that time I wasn't having a big tantrum about how oh my God, I paid $200 US for this.
You'd be fuming if you'd paid good money for tickets and then at the last minute they give them away for free.
This was the thing, right? If they were giving it away for free the day before, like they did with this, I would have been like, what the hell, man? But the fact was, it's different for the NRL because they're only 2-hour games or whatever. But because all these people rocked up halfway through, I didn't care. But yeah, if it had been the day before, or even leading up to it, and because obviously I bought the tickets well in advance because that was one of the plans, pre-planned trip and all that stuff. If it had have been like that, I would have been really demanding a refund. So now a lot of people are apparently contacting the NRL demanding refunds. And it's a fair call because, first 2 for the price of 1. Dude, I've already paid full price for a ticket. They could have given everyone who had already paid full price for a ticket. And then it was, now we're just giving away for free. And it's like, even everybody who had bought 2 for the price of 1 is like, what the hell, man?
To be honest, John, I don't have the crowd figure for that game right in front of me here, but I believe it may have been in the region of 35,000 at the Olympic.
It wasn't much. The free ticket giveaway didn't really work that well in the end. But
so is this a situation where the NRL just need to maybe use a bit of common sense in these situations and go, we'd rather have, and I think the capacity of Penrith Stadium is something in the region of 25,000?
It's about 20-something, yeah.
Is this a scenario where where we're better off having a full house at 25,000 at Penrith Stadium than to have 35,000 in an 82,000 seat stadium
to be honest,
at Homebush?
I don't think they should ever play a semi-final at Homebush. unless never. They will never get, unless it was possibly something like Roosters versus Rabbitohs.
But I'll tell you, the only two that I can think of, they both involve the Bulldogs. Funny enough, John, Bulldogs South in 2012 got over 70,000 at the prelim final at Homebush. And I think Bulldogs Parramatta in 2009 got about 74,000.
Yeah, so the way I would think they should do it, like now that Parramatta has such a good place and Sydney Football Stadium is such a good place, I would think the Sydney semi-finals should be played at one of those two places because they're smaller but they're high quality. And then if it sells out like too quickly, then they can move it to somewhere bigger. But to schedule it at the Olympic Park, you're always going to end up with 30,000 people at a semi-final. You're always. The majority of people who go to the grand final and sell it out every year aren't fans of the teams that are in it, you know, because you buy your grand final tickets well in advance. It's like an experience that you pre-plan for.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there are obviously a group of people that are like the members and stuff get there when Penrith and Brisbane make it. They get their new release tickets and they'll schedule all their thing. But I don't think that Olympic Park is a semi-final venue at all. And this kind of once again, I mean, it was Storm, right? But it was Penrith. Who in the league, if it was Penrith versus them, would have got 50,000 people? I can't think of any team, you know, that
Maybe South, maybe.
But like, because normally, you know, when you talk about Bulldogs versus Para, that's also one of those rivalries that people want to go because you know it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
But Penrith versus South, a lot of South people will go. And all the Penrith people are already gone. They already went.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't think you're going to hit over 50,000.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like Bulldogs, Parramatta, Bulldogs, South, those two massive crowds. You got those rivalries and...
Yeah, people are going to go
Penrith
just to be able to run in.
Yeah, you're right. Penrith don't have that,
so
that rival club, do
I
they?
just think that match should have been played at Parramatta Stadium. Because it's close enough to Penrith. It's actually closer to Penrith. And it doesn't matter for the Storm supporters, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that was a bit of a kick up from that match as well. The whole drama over the tickets. Broncos Warriors on the other. I watched this game too.
Yeah.
So this one, it was exactly as expected. Actually, it was such a cracker of a game. It was amazing. It was so much fun to watch. It was exactly what I would use to introduce someone to rugby league, you know?
Yeah, well, how good was Reece Walsh? I'm going to put something to you, John. I reckon Reece Walsh could be the first $2 million player in the NRL.
Well, I actually have notes in here to talk about that guy because not only is he such a high-quality player, he's also just seems to be like actually a good human being who's very mature for his age. What is he, like 22 years old, something like that? Maybe 25. Very mature. Could be young.
I think he's younger. I think he's, to be honest, I think we might have to look it up, but I think he's only 20, John. I think.
See, he speaks with such maturity about 21 with everything he does, and I know he talks about like he left the Warriors. They let him go so he could go and be with his daughter. And yeah, he just speaks with such maturity. He's actually well spoken. He doesn't act like a grommet on the field. He doesn't do anything bad off the field. I think he's like a future leader of the game in like the you can talk about like Darren Lockyer and Jonathan Thurston and Andrew Johns who had all their issues, but more like a Cameron Smith. I think he'll end up being that kind of player. So yeah, he could possibly very well be that $2 million player you're talking about because he's so good at football, but he's also like a perfect image for the game, actually.
Yeah.
Put
it this way, I think if a club like the Bulldogs, Tigers, Dragons made him an offer, they'd have to pay about $2 million to get him. And even then, he probably still wouldn't leave. But that's what they would have to do to have any chance. So Walsh, sensational game. Set up 3 tries. Laid on 6 line breaks and ran for 146 metres. He was given an early mark with 4 minutes to go.
That was weird.
As was Adam Reynolds. Kevin Walters not going to take any risks with them going into the grand final.
They still had interchanges left at that point as well, apparently.
Yeah, amazing. Billy Walters, Herbie Farnworth for the Broncos got 2 tries each. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak also got a double for the Warriors. His two, Watene-Zelezniak gave him the record for the most tries in a season for the Warriors. He scored 24, surpassing Francis Melli and David Fuzatua, who both scored 23, John.
It was like, even though it was kind of like a smashing in the end, I don't take anything away from the Warriors. They tried throughout the entire thing, and the Broncos were just too good. It wasn't a matter like the other game where Panthers made Storm look bad. Broncos didn't make the Warriors look bad. Broncos were just way too good, and if the only team that I could see being able to even challenge Broncos on that night was the Panthers.
Yeah, absolutely. They're in the grand final for a reason, aren't they? Clearly the two best sides this year.
Yes.
That Jordan Ricky try, John, there were two forward passes in the lead up to it. One from Reece Walsh to Selwyn Cobbo, and another from Cobbo to Ricky. Surely that those two mistakes in one play ruled Gerard Sutton out of being the grand final referee.
So this is one of the things I saw today. If Ashley Klein is out and Gerard Sutton is out, who's the third best referee?
I don't know, but you can't make Gerard Sutton the referee.
And the thing with those two forward passes in sequence, right?
It was so bad.
The first one was seriously 2.5 meters forward. Now the second one is the kind of forward pass you see every game that he's missed. That he's not like. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay. You can maybe forgive the second one. You can't forgive the first one.
The fact that the first one happened, right? And it was so obvious, meant the second one is overplayed so much as well. Because the first one was so the ball travelled forward in total 5 meters.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And he wasn't that far away from it either.
No, the touchy was right there as well. It was so big. And once again, you come to this drama of why can't the bunker rule on forward passes? It's never made any sense. If you can rule on offsides...
Well, they rule on everything else.
If you can rule on offsides, it's the same principle of physics.
If you're going to stop the game and go over everything for 5 minutes before you make a decision, well, you may as well do it for forward passes as well.
Yeah, and so...
if you do it for everything else.
What's his face? Peter V'landys has come out, I think, today and said they'll be looking at that for next year. Where the bunker will be allowed to rule on forward pass, because it just doesn't make any sense.
It should just be they seem to be worried about the camera angle might not pick it up. It should just be if it's clearly identifiable as a forward pass, then overrule. If it's not clearly identifiable, then don't overrule.
That's how it works.
Simple.
They have to have all the evidence, right?
Yeah.
They can't. That's the whole point of the bunker.
It should just be all right. Yeah, it's clear. All right, if it's a clear forward pass that was missed, then overturn the decision.
And that one was clear.
Yes.
The bunker's looking at it.
You can say that again,
I
John.
can see that is forward, guys. But all they could do is go, I can see that is forward, but I can't rule on it, so 4 points. Absolutely ridiculous. It was one of the most obvious forward passes I've ever seen. And of course all the memes came out straight away with they're practicing for Vegas and all that. They're gonna so the Americans will understand the football game.
A couple more things on this game, John. The Broncos made 11 line breaks to the Warriors 4. Adam Pompey was sent to the sin bin at the 58th minute for the Warriors. So if you can work that out, he was sin binned. But the two the night before who hit Nathan Cleary late were left on the field. So if you can figure that one out, you're much smarter than me. It was Brisbane's 9th win from their last 10, from their last 10 finals games at Suncorp, I think. Brisbane's first grand final since 2015. Yep. We all remember that epic finish to that one against the Cowboys.
I have a North Queensland Cowboys jersey just for that match, and I've never worn it again.
And they're chasing their first premiership since 2006 as well, John. So there you go. Before we continue on, I'm interested in your T-shirt.
Oh yeah, actually, I forgot about that. So you see my T-shirt, all right? I did the search to try and find myself a Panthers shirt or jersey because I actually realised I don't have one, and a Collingwood, and they were absolutely unavailable everywhere. So I got my daughter to draw me one. So she drew me a magpie. Then wrote go Magpies. Drew me a Penrith and wrote Go Panthers, and then signed her name. So this is going to get framed after the grand finals. These are my two teams for the grand finals.
I am with you on both.
Yeah.
I'm with you on
It's
both.
going up on my wall at home. Maybe I'll sell it on the smartb.com.au memorabilia marketplace one day.
Yeah, that might be a bit of a wrap for that game, John.
So, it was like, honestly, I can't take nothing away from the Warriors. I felt so bad for Sean Johnson afterwards because he actually apologised. And I don't think they had anything to apologise for. That was simply a case of the Broncos were absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, they just ran into a better team on the day. Yeah. Well done to the Warriors on having a great season this year.
So now we're going to do the season reviews for the Storm and the Warriors. We'll start with the Storm. So we talked about it. They were out of sorts all year. They had low completions. They had a lot of drop balls. They weren't converting their opportunities. They were like not the Storm. And the final game that they had, I think, really summed it up. That was like just a summary of their year. Like in conclusion, this is what our year was.
I thought the key players like Harry Grant, Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster were right out of sorts at the back end of the year, John. And I think they really let themselves down. They weren't themselves. They were making uncharacteristic mistakes. And that really hindered the Storm at the back end of the season. They haven't won a premiership since the retirement of Cameron Smith in 2020. And I don't think it's any coincidence. They're not, and I know that's funny because that's only 3 years ago.
It's very funny.
But we do. But that's the thing. Like, if they're one of those teams, you hold them to such high standards. If they don't win the premiership, it's sort of seen as a failure. Yeah,
this kind of seems like they may become the Brisbane. Like Brisbane hasn't won a premiership in 16 years. You never know with the Storm. Bellyache is obviously there. I did see a report which gave me a little bit of a key understanding because when you talk about like Harry Grant and what's his name, Jerome Hughes weren't able to play very well. I think it was on the back of their forwards. Last year they lost Felice Kafusi, Brandon Smith, Jesse and Kenny Bromwich in one go.
Yeah, lost
so they
a
lost
lot of troops up front.
Yeah, that's like a big drain on their forward pack, as well as obviously Cameron Smith no longer being there. So when you think about it, Penrith, as I said before, Penrith monstered them in the forwards. And unless Melbourne can do something about their forward pack next year, either build a lot on this year, and they've signed no one.
Yeah, signed nobody, lost nobody. No gains, no losses.
Unless they can find
That's probably not a good thing, though. It looks like
I think
they need new troops.
They might need some forwards. And so unless they can get something in their forward pack, those guys like Harry Grant, getting the quick play the balls for Harry Grant, getting good balls away for, I always keep getting confused with Jerome Luai, Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster.
Hughes, yeah.
And Cameron Munster, unless that happens, they're going to have the same kind of thing in and out, year in, year out. They really need to fix that forward pack up front. Their backs are their backs, they're some of the top guys in the world. And their spine is their spine, which is one of the best spines in the competition. But without the forwards laying that platform for them, they just won't go very well again. Well, they went pretty well. One game away from a grand final, but they didn't look.
They weren't close though.
Yeah, exactly.
They won their last 4 games of the regular season as well. So they'd be disappointed that their finals campaign went the way that it did after that strong finish to the regular season. And
they did. We also got to remember they only just won against the Roosters. Like that's not a. They could.
So a big loss to Brisbane. Getting home on the bell against the Roosters, and then that big loss to Penrith. So not a good final series for the Storm.
I think it's all in the forwards for them next year. We'll watch out for the signings. We've talked about it at length. What is probably going to happen in the next month or so. The Warriors, on the other hand, on the flip side, had an absolutely amazing year.
They did, yes.
This is the best year in their history. No matter what they have done in the past, this is definitely the best. They were impressive. Their entire attitude towards the way they play has changed. They're no longer we'll see what happens next year, but based on this year, they're no longer the team that are like, you want to tip every week, but you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a flip of a coin every week because they just came up heads the majority of the time this year. Not just in the end of the games, but on the field they were doing well, like everything they were doing.
And it was their first full season with home games since 2019, since the pandemic played havoc with them. They started playing home games last year, but that wasn't till the back end of the year. So first full season back at home for the Warriors, and didn't they make the most of it? What a great season. Great season from Sean Johnson. Absolutely sensational, and a great first up season from their new coach, Andrew Webster. Great performance. Well done.
Definitely. It was... I would say that they are probably the most, the best performing team of the year.
In terms of potential and results,
Yeah, definitely. It was, like I said, they were consistent on the field. Normally the Warriors are such a, 1 minute to the next. They might put 30 points on you, but then they'll lose by 40. But this year there was none of that. It was just all the way beautiful.
Well done to the Warriors. Sensational.
So hopefully they can build on next year, and we'll see what Andrew Webster can do with them next year.
Yeah, well, let's hope they can go, they can go a couple of steps better.
Yeah, I think, what are their gains and losses?
Yes, they have signed Roger Tuivasa-Sheck on a 3-year deal. So he rejoins the club next season. So there you go. That's something to look forward to.
That's a big signature. That's good.
Great effort finishing in the top 4 this year after coming second last in 2022. John?
Yeah, they have... I'm not going to look at that. That's too confusing. That was telling me every one of their players.
I think Tuivasa-Sheck's the main one, John. I don't think the others are of note.
Yeah, they've only... so they've just signed one other player, which is Channel Harris Tavita, and they've only lost Rolami Valia to the Cowboys. Bunch of re-signings. Sean Johnson's going to be there again next year. I think this is Sean Johnson's chance to get that premiership at the Warriors, which is, of course, his home away. Well, his proper home. That guy's half Lao. My wife is Lao. So,
there you go.
Well, every time I mention it, she says, Lao people don't play rugby league. I would say to her, what do they play? She's like, I don't know. So, yeah, he's I really hope that, they're always a feel-good. Everybody loves the Warriors.
100%.
I hope
a lot of people got on the bandwagon, and hopefully they can go even better next year, John.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. I would hope that they at least make the grand final. But I reckon they'll push for the 8. They'll push for the 4 again, and we'll see.
We'll see how they go.
Yeah. So in NRL news, have you heard all this stuff about State of Origin?
Is this the Phil Gould ready to answer Brad Fittler's call?
It's gone crazy.
And Greg Alexander standing down.
Greg Alexander's out.
Yeah.
Andrew Johns and probably Danny Badiris are out as well.
Yeah.
Paul McGregor is out, so Brad Fittler is now alone. A man alone. He supposedly has a contract extension in his favour, and he's going to be taking it up and revitalising everything. But what it looks like is Ivan Cleary is going to be his main assistant, because they've been crediting Ivan Cleary with that 3rd game win because he was in the coach's box.
Right.
It can't be a situation in which Brad Fittler is grooming Ivan Cleary to take over as State of Origin coach the following year, because he's got a job.
Yeah.
It's but Phil Gould is going to answer Brad Fittler's call. I don't know what he'll do there either. It's just...
I would have thought Phil Gould's got enough on his plate at the Bulldogs at the moment, John,
I would hope
than to be getting involved in State of Origin at this point. The Bulldogs are paying his salary. I think it's time for him to knuckle down and sort them out before he worries about a return to the State of Origin scene.
On the Bulldogs, they won a couple of awards. They won the, I think, Jersey Flag Premiership. And they've won this weird thing I saw today. It's like an award that is based on, I should have written it down, I was too busy, based on the all of your leagues, how well all of your leagues went, because all of the Bulldogs in their other lower level leagues went really well. So they won this as the best team in the lower league, in the New South Wales Rugby League. So
I'm sure they'll be talking about that. I'm sure they'll be screaming that to the... all the way as they run to the hills, I think, the Bulldogs.
That's one of because that's what they've been talking about. You've got to look at all their lower grades, and then you'll see what's coming soon. But coming soon is not good for your fans. But yeah, so the Bulldogs youth and lower grades.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, John. Let's hope let's hope they can keep hold of those good juniors they've got, and hopefully they can rise through the ranks and and we get some better results
next
in
year
the first grade team.
They all come up and just carve up.
Yeah, that'd be lovely, John. I want to see that happen. So fingers crossed with that.
Anything else in the NRL?
Yeah, so that PM's 13, but PNG 30-18. Bit of a scrappy performance from the PM's 13. They made 17 errors.
Yeah, I saw a tweet update because I didn't know it was on, and I don't know if it was televised or anything like that. That they weren't looking good in the first half. I think they came off at like 16-6 or something like that, and it looked like PNG was getting on top or something. Was like, I can't remember exactly. Like that PM's 13 thing is like a whole bunch of players that have already been knocked out. It's not the Australian squad.
Yeah, it's not. But, I mean, PNG only had a handful of players with NRL experience. PM's 13 had 8 World Cup winners and 12 Origin players from this year in their squad.
New South Wales Origin players? Because who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I think both sides. To be honest, I'm not sure how many of each, John. But, yeah, 12 Origin players in total. Your mate Ben Hunt was among the best players for the PM's 13. John.
Individually brilliant. 5 eyes and individual brilliant.
Exactly. So apparently he's looking good for the Kangaroos number 9 jersey at the Pacific Championships.
And maybe the Dolphins or Titans number 9 jersey next year.
To just give you a bit of a comparison, John, the PM's 13 won this same game 64-14 last year.
That's what you expect it to be.
So for PNG to get within 12 points...
That's what you expect it to be.
Yeah, exactly. So great effort from PNG.
They're in the Pacific Championships as well, right? I'm pretty sure PNG is in the twos.
I'd say they would be.
Yeah, they are. So that's a good hit out for them. It's not something that anybody really ever pays attention to. It's more a tryout for the fringe first graders for the
Australian squad.
Yeah, whatever the Australian squad is. So you look at the team, Zach Lomax was in there. He's never going to make it to the Australian squad.
Some of the big names, Cody Walker, Daly Cherry-Evans, Jake Trebojevic, Ben Hunt I mentioned, Big Tino played, Cameron Murray, Nico Hines all played, John.
Yeah, it was like Tyrell Sloan was the fullback for Australia. You're missing, but
still, it's a bit part team. It is.
Still, they should have won by more than that. Yeah, definitely should have won by more. And I'm just looking at the team, and I've never heard of any of the PNG players.
That's the thing.
Oh, Nina McDonald's in it. Yeah. And
none of the Aussie forwards ran for over 100 metres, so...
That's pathetic.
It's a good effort from PNG's defence.
Given who the forwards were, with Jake Trebojevic. Jake Trebojevic didn't even...
Yeah, they didn't run for over 100 metres.
Tino...
Cameron Murray made 44 tackles, though, so...
Wow.
That's a good effort.
Ruben Cotter, Hudson Young, these guys should have been running for more than 100 metres. But yeah, I don't know how seriously even the team takes it, to be honest. To me, it's always been a bit of a city country. There's one person in the world who always wants the city country. Me, I want it to come back. I used to love it.
Right, okay.
3 city country jerseys.
You are on your own.
And I'm sure there's like one guy out there who loves this Aussie PM's 13 versus PNG PM's 13. But to be honest, it's like not a serious. It's not a serious match. But Zach Lomax kicked 5 from 5 for 100%. My dragon.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's the Dally M's.
Yes.
When is the Dally M's? Did you just tell me?
Wednesday night. So it looks like Sean Johnson might be in the frame for that, John. I think I'm going to go with him. I think he might win it because I don't think too many players in the Warriors side are going to take votes off him.
No,
that's what.
I think it's a bit dumb that they're going to go behind closed doors at round 12. They may as well just go behind closed doors at the beginning of the year.
Maybe they should.
It's a bit dumb.
We're going to get to the AFL's Brownlow medal later, but in the AFL's Brownlow medal, the umpires do the votes and it's all done behind closed doors. You don't know. They literally read through every game of the season on the Brownlow night, round 1, 3, 2, 1, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. No, that's better. It used to be like around halfway through the season or something.
Yeah, I think. Did they used to? Yeah, I don't like that either, John. I think you may as well just do it all behind closed doors.
And so, mid-season ban ends Reece Walsh's chance and Payne Haas. They were the two guys on top in round 12, and Reece Walsh obviously has had a cracker every year. He probably would have won if he hadn't had that ban in the middle of the year. But yeah, I'd go Sean Johnson as well. There isn't anyone else.
Because I guess with these sorts of awards, you've got to think, well, are there other players who take votes off this player in their team? If I look at the Broncos team, if I were to look at, I know they've had, they're facing this blackout, the Broncos, Payne Haas and Reece Walsh potentially not being in the running. But I guess the Broncos are the sort of team where other players would take votes off you. Selwyn Cobbo would take votes off Reece Walsh. Payne Haas would take votes off Reece Walsh. Pat Carey going to take votes off Payne Haas. There's all different players in the Broncos side pulling votes away from each other. I don't see the same issue, Sean Johnson having the same issue at the Warriors.
Yeah, there's only a chance Nickel Clockstad, maybe, but even then, Sean Johnson.
Sean Johnson, he just stands out, doesn't he? He stands out. He's the sort of player who would win this medal.
It's the kind of, like we actually talked about it at the opening round of the finals when Sean Johnson didn't play. They look like it can be a completely different squad. So, Chance Nickel Clockstad would have got 3 points in that time. But
that's
if
right.
It was in regular season. But so St George Illawarra, Canterbury, North Queensland, and Parramatta are the only teams who have no players nominated for the Dally M.
I'll tell you what, I'm a bit surprised the West Tigers had, or maybe Jerome Buller, I should say. And Appy Coruscant maybe got nominated for the Tigers.
So Hooker of the Year, Appy Coruscant,
Yeah. Jermaine Buller, maybe.
Yeah, Jermaine Buller. But that Bulldogs rookie, I can't remember his name. That's how much it matters. With the mullet, that guy was pretty good.
Are you talking about Jacob Preston?
Yeah,
maybe?
Yeah. So he was a rookie this year. He could have been. Between Buller, Warwick, and Taruva at the Panthers.
Yeah, that's the thing. It always feels like there's other players in front of you with this sort of an award.
And Dom Young is going to win the Try of the Year.
That's right.
Got so many pick from. So the Dally M's will happen on Wednesday. It's televised on Fox.
I think it's on Fox. Yeah, I think Fox have got it.
Possibly KO.
It may be on 9 as well. I don't know though, John.
It's not on 9.
I know it's definitely on Fox.
It's kind of a boring thing to watch, to be honest. I've never been able to sit through a whole one.
No. I just sort of look at the results online afterwards, John.
Live feed.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all that's happened in the NRL.
We've got through the NRL.
It's kind of weird. What's going on? Put a call in and ask them why they've been so well behaved this week.
The stories do.
They're all
sort
drunk
of
and stuff.
away.
But the AFL. So I watched the Collingwood versus Giants game.
You can imagine what sort of state I was in at the end of that game.
That was the best game of AFL I've ever watched. Honestly.
Very stressful.
Yeah. The fourth quarter especially was just edge of the seat kind of stuff. Kept having to tell my nephew to calm down, keep it down because my daughter was asleep and stuff. But it was just so intense, edge of your seat stuff and that. It was interesting because Collingwood obviously got out to this massive lead at the beginning, and we were just like, it's over, screw it. And I was paying more attention to the NRL and the cricket, and then Collingwood, GWS came back and got out to this massive lead, and so we were paying attention when they came back, and then they got out to this massive lead, and we stopped paying attention again.
Exactly. Well, you're running through the ebbs and flows of the game. You're right, John. So Collingwood kicked the only 2 goals of the first quarter. Then GWS kicked the only 4 goals of the second quarter. So, and when Toby Green kicked the first goal of the third quarter, the Collingwood looked to be in real trouble. But then they kicked 5 of the next 6 goals to finish that third term. Then the Giants kicked 2 goals to 1 in the last quarter, but the Pies did just enough.
Just
to hold
enough.
On.
That 1 point, And Nick Dacos came back and he had a cracker.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Just kept hearing his name. Didn't realise his brother also plays for Collingwood. So that was a little bit confusing when I was watching.
Flatter him a little bit, a fantastic crowd there too, John. 97,665 at the MCG. You talk about the NRL having issues getting people at the games, or the AFL clearly have no such problems, John. Remarkable considering an interstate team was playing as well.
Yeah.
incredible scenes.
So in the crowd even, they had quite a large orange contingent. That was one of the things they kept showing. Obviously, camera angles can be done a lot to make it look bigger, but it was big enough to be noticeable. They had quite a few GWS people there, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel McStay kicked 2 goals for Collingwood, while Toby Green kicked 2 for GWS. They were the only 2 players to kick multiple goals for the game. McStay unfortunately suffered a PCL knee injury, and he's going to miss the grand final, John. So that's tough news for him. Very unfortunate.
That sucks.
Yeah. Collingwood won 18 more clearances than the Giants for the game. And so it'll be Collingwood's first grand final since 2018, John, when they went down to West Coast. And they're chasing their first premiership since 2010 when they beat St Kilda in that famous replayed grand final that they won in.
Yeah, they like both of those teams looked amazing. They you can't take anything away from GWS. That fourth quarter, when there was a point where it was just Collingwood was one ahead and that was it, and neither of them could do anything to the other. It was just attack, and the need to defend. And that was one of the things I mentioned last week when GWS gets a roll on. We've mentioned it before. They get a roll on, and then when the other team tries to get a roll on, GWS just shuts that roll down. But they couldn't shut Collingwood's rolls down. And it would go. It was so back and forth like that. Like Collingwood would get a roll on and almost score, and then GWS would get a roll on and almost score.
Yeah, the ebbs and the flows in the game, John.
It was so amazing. Seriously, but like I said, I moved it to the main screen on my TV. It was much more entertaining than that garbage over in the NRL.
Very much so, yeah. Well done to Collingwood. They're back in the big dance, John.
Go the Magpies.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you all the way on that one.
The Lions versus Carlton, on the other hand, I didn't watch, but I heard it was like pure unadulterated garbage.
But this was, in some ways, a little bit similar to the Collingwood GWS game, John, in that the ebbs and the flows of the game. The Blues came firing out of the blocks, John. They kicked the first 5 goals of the game. And so 5 goals to 1 in the first quarter. Brisbane kicked the last one of the first quarter. But the Lions hit back in the second term, doing the same to the Blues, kicking 5 goals to 1. And that third quarter, that was where the Lions got away. They kicked 3 goals to 0. Carlton kicked 3 goals to 2 in the last quarter, but it wasn't enough for the Blues. The Lions getting home by 16 points there, John.
Yeah, so as I said, I didn't watch it, but I know one guy who's a Brisbane Lions fan, and he said it was kind of boring because he knew the Lions were going to win for the entire time. Once they got on top, Carlton couldn't bring them back. I think that Carlton rode that emotional high last week, and it was a massive amount of emotion in both the team and the crowd, and probably couldn't follow it up, to be honest. That emotional high that you get is a massive drainer as well. It happened to the Tigers in 2010 in the NRL, actually. They just slightly lost to the Dragons and then couldn't back it up the next week because it was just too emotionally draining.
Yeah. It'll be the Brisbane Lions' first grand final appearance since 2004, John. Brisbane won the clearances in this game 42-32. They won forward half intercepts 29-23 and inside 50 entries 64-52. So all those stats going the way of the Lions. John, unsurprisingly, Brisbane's 3 premierships came in 3 straight years, 01, 02 and 03. In 02 and 03, they beat Collingwood in the grand final. So there's that symmetry there now, John, 20 years since Collingwood and Brisbane in the grand final. And we've got that again in 2023.
Oh, we're going to do a preview show on
Thursday. I don't want to... But, I'm just saying the game's on. I'm not... We've got plenty to...
Obviously, that's Saturday.
We'll have plenty of time on Thursday to go through it all.
Will they name the team earlier or anything? They won't, right? They'll still name it.
It's Thursday nights. They name the AFL teams.
Kind of annoying. But that's all right. It'll be... everybody always basically knows the team before it actually gets named anyway.
Yeah. So MCG Saturday, 2:30 PM.
Yep.
Collingwood and the Brisbane Lions. We'll have a full preview on Thursday.
Yep. And so season reviews for the Giants. So they had a great season, I think. They obviously, they had a couple of streaks that were really good. They got into the 8. They pushed some of the top teams right to the limit, none more so than what they did with Collingwood. If they can build on next season, then they'll be pushing for a top 4 finish, I think.
Yeah, had a great, as you say, a great finish to the season, John. They won 11 of their last 14 games, and that included the finals as well. That late winning run helped them finish 7th at the end of the regular season and qualify for the finals. They reached their first prelim final since 2019, John, so a big tick in that regard. Won 2 finals over St Kilda and Port Adelaide. Yeah, just that heartbreaking loss to Collingwood in the prelim there, John, that we've already gone through. But well done to the Giants. Certainly positive signs going into 2024. They'll be better for it. They'll be better. I know it's terrible for Giants supporters to get that close. It's heartbreaking, but they'll be better for that experience, John.
Yeah, they'll the draft and draft period and stuff will be really interesting for the Giants because they're obviously like low down on the draft pecking order. But they don't really have that many things players they need to replace. They don't have very many weaknesses. All they really need to do is build on what they did this year in each of their spots, forward, middle and back. It was really good for the whole year was really good. Carlton as well. I think Carlton ran a lot at the back end of the season on emotion as opposed to high quality football. And they scraped through. They won that match they shouldn't have won in the last week. And I don't know if they can actually improve next year. That's the thing about Carlton. I don't know. Based on especially their end of season form.
Yeah, as you say, Joe, a good season from them though. Making the prelim finals for the first time since the year 2000. They finished 5th on the ladder, a good performance, winning 2 finals over Sydney and Melbourne. They also won 11 of their last 13 games of the season, including the finals. So a really strong finish to the season for them, John.
I think that's probably where they'll be next year again. When I say I don't think they can improve, I also don't think they can get any worse. So what they'll get better at is not running on that emotional kind of we're finally gonna do it, and they'll actually be like a better team for it, and they'll probably finish around the same again next year. But again, with the AFL, you got to wait for the draft period and everything like that to know what's actually going to happen, given players leaving and stuff. But yeah, it was a wonderful story. Actually, Carlton is the main thing.
Yeah, and I was just in that prelim final, John. I did watch the game actually, and I know we've already been through the review of it, but to kick the first 5 in the first quarter. Oh, you were just thinking, this Carlton Collingwood grand final could be coming right up, and then we didn't quite get there, unfortunately. But that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, that's especially in AFL, the ebbs and flows is there.
But well done to Carlton, great season from them.
Yeah, I think so. So speaking of the draft period, actually, I just got some dates here for everybody to understand. So
sure.
Post grand final is the free agency period. Where everyone goes out and becomes a free agent. So that's 6th to the 13th, and then the 9th to the 13th is the trade period. November 20 is the actual draft. And then all of this kind of AFL schedule finishes on the 22nd of November. And after that, I think we'll be able to do a much more comprehensive review of the season and what's going to happen. Not review, a preview of the season and what's going to happen. See where we think that people have gotten better and gotten worse and stuff like that. And, AFL's an interesting one. I kind of actually like this over the NRL nonsense that's going to happen on 1st of November. We know the dates.
Do you think it's more? Do you think there's more honesty with the AFL? That's sort of like everyone knows when this is happening, whereas with the NRL, it just seems like just a free for all. Do your best.
Well, the Dolphins have got fined $50,000 this year because of we never talked to him. But
that's the thing. That's where the AFL are more honest about it. They have a period. It's there. Everyone can see it.
Yeah. I think
I agree. I think the AFL system is better.
I don't necessarily like the draft per se, but I like the trade window, the free agency period, that kind of thing. I like the fact that it's all scheduled as opposed to converting the NRL to a draft and going through free agency and trade period. But just the trade period is good. I also really, really hate in the NRL the mid-season switch. I hate it so much. I just can't stand it. I can't remember who it was, but some player years ago that mid-season switched, who was the month that he switched whatever team to whatever team, he was the person in that team's calendar.
Yeah. There you go.
It was
maybe
awful
it's easy.
for the fans.
Just don't allow it to happen. Just say you can't move teams mid-season. See, the NRL can do something about these issues, but they just don't.
Yeah,
They just sit on their laurels and just let everything happen.
Peter V'landys was supposed to be the guy who actually would do these things, but I kind of liken the NRL, head of the NRL, to the current state of the Prime Minister, where they can, in Australia, where they can come in and say they're going to do a lot of things, but they just simply can't.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, stuck, can't move. Broadcast deals or whatever. Yeah, so. I think after the November 22nd, we'll do a breakdown of all of the AFL movements and stuff too. We can look up who are the NRL movements now and see them all. But AFL, it's like none. People who are going to...
Yeah, and there's a bit of theatre with the AFL system as well, isn't there? Like, this will be interesting. You sort of get the popcorn out, and go, where's he going? And I like that element of it too.
The 2nd of November, we'll be able to do a quick... a crazy update of the NRL when all of those fake, we haven't talked to them, but
all the ones where they pretend like they didn't talk to anyone for
suddenly
months.
They're signing a $600,000 contract.
That was a quick agreement you reached. That only took a couple of days or an hour.
Nonsense crap that they do. Yeah. But I like the AFL one. So that's AFL for the...
There's one other little thing. There's Brownlow medals.
Oh, yeah, that's right,
held, John.
So when's that?
So we're recording this on Monday afternoon. The Brownlow's on Monday night. So we're going to give our prediction. I'm going to go with the Collingwood boy, Nick Dacos, John.
I agree. Nick Dacos is...
only his second AFL season too.
Yeah, he is definitely one of the best players, if not the best player in the AFL. I always have this conversation with people who are not really big sports fans, because that's one of the things that anyone who's trying to have conversation with you. So who do you think is the best player? And give them a lecture. You can't really judge forwards versus backs and things like that. There's no real comparison.
Yeah, it's like, just say it. Just come out with it.
But I think Nick Dacos is probably the best, if not the best, probably the best choice, because he's one of the best, if not the best, overall player in the AFL right now in only his second season. And what he's going to do in the future. He could win multiple Brownlows. He could be the best player that's ever been, I think. I got big raps on him.
Yeah, that's a bit cool.
He was massive for them on Friday. Massive for them. And it is a bit confusing to me when they keep saying Dacos. Say Nick Dacos in the commentary. Gotta say Nick.
Maybe you think he's a bit better than he is because you keep hearing his brother and thinking it's him.
Touch the ball so much. But I reckon he's got a lot of potential to be good, and I think Brownlow is basically a lock for him. I don't know what the betting would say.
I think he's the betting favourite, John. But there are a couple of others pretty close to him. I'm not sure if
Nick
there's
Dacos,
odds on SmartB. I'm not sure. smartb.com.au.
But Nick Dacos is definitely at $2.75. The favourite. And the next highest is Marcus
Bontempelli,
I can't do these names, man.
Marcus Bontempelli. Christian Petrarca from Melbourne is on the third line of betting there. Fourth line is Zach Butters from Port Adelaide. And it looks like, John, that those four players we've just mentioned are the clear favourites. I don't think anyone else outside of them is a realistic chance.
Nick Dacos is quite high up on that, paying $2.75. Bet with your head not over it. So that's pretty much the AFL, and we can move on to the disappointment that is Australia sport as a whole right now. After the dismal showing in the Basketball World Cup, we moved to the Rugby World Cup. Yeah. And if you've followed us on @SmartB app on Instagram, you can see that Ollie Silverton was over in England watching this match and left early. He looked so sad.
Good move, Ollie.
Now, so he's obviously he's British and he was supporting England, but Australia is his second team, and he just looked so dejected, as did the crowd. The team got booed. Because the end result is they got smashed by Wales, 46...
40 points to 6, John. Wales beat the Wallabies.
And they can't make the knockout stages now.
There is a path for the Wallabies, but it's a very unrealistic path, John.
There is no path for
It's
Wallabies.
possible, but it's not going to happen. They'd need Fiji to lose to Georgia and Portugal. It's not going to happen. They'd also need other results and bonus points to fall their way. So it won't happen, John. The Wallabies are gone.
Not a chance, because even if Fiji's going to lose to...
Yeah, it's just one of those, it's possible, but it's just not going to happen, you know?
Yeah, it's not.
That's...
Absolutely ridiculous. They had their worst game. Surely Eddie Jones is facing the sack now.
Yeah, it was the Wallabies' biggest loss at a World Cup as well, John, so there you go.
First time ever that they're not making the knockout stages?
Yeah.
Yep.
First time they haven't made the knockouts. Unbelievable. So Eddie Jones, before the tournament, John, told reporters to give themselves uppercuts.
Yeah.
And he said reporters were so bloody negative. Oh, well, I wonder why, Eddie. I wonder why.
So he's won one game since he took over. And then that wasn't convincing.
He's got to go, John. And I know it looks embarrassing because they've signed him to a 5-year deal through until the end of the 2027 World Cup. And I know they got no money because they gave it all to Joseph Suwali and they get nothing for their TV deal. But they've got to sack him and pay him out and let him go because this is just a complete embarrassment.
Yeah, and that's absolutely ridiculous that they paid him to the next World Cup, told him to build a team, using this World Cup to build a team. I don't know, like, what the motivation there is. Like, we got an easy pull, so it's okay, we'll definitely make it no matter what. Well, you haven't made it. Yeah. And, do you really want him to be in charge for the next 4 years? Yeah. Through to the end of the next World Cup.
And then he had the nerve in the post-game press conference to get agitated with reporters who were asking him if he should continue in the job. After all that, he still had the nerve to have a go at reporters again.
Apparently, so now there's the rumour that he actually interviewed for the Japanese rugby job the night before the World Cup started.
And this guy, he's on a contract until the end of the 2027 World Cup. So they've got to get rid of him. He's got to go, John.
Sonny Bill actually had comments, of course. You know, he's a rugby union, ex-rugby union player in rugby league. Will always be a rugby league player. But... he said, like, it's just crazy. It is crazy. It's crazy to keep him. He has to go tomorrow, basically.
Well, now's the time to start building. In a sport like rugby union, like cricket similar, you build for the next World Cup.
Yeah, and so that's what they've got to do. They've got 4 years to build for it. They need a new coach. Yeah. They need some new management, it seems. They signed him for 5 years. Which is ridiculous. You can't sign in a World Cup game. You don't sign coaches for 2 World Cups in advance. Yeah, you just don't.
You're right. You sign them till the end of the next World Cup. Then you make your decision after that World Cup what you're going to do for the next one.
If you are signing somebody who has already won 5 World Cups in a row, feel free to sign them for the next 5 World Cups. But Eddie hasn't won any World Cups.
Yeah, there are exceptions to the rule.
It's absolutely ridiculous. He has to go. He has to be sacked tomorrow or today. And so what Sonny Bill said was, these rumours, something along the lines of these rumours about the Japanese rugby job obviously made it so the players didn't want to play. And the players obviously didn't want to play. They were in tears at the end of it. They know what they had done. They knew at the time what they had just achieved, which was biggest loss ever in the Rugby World Cup, first time ever missing the knockout stages. And a massive disappointment losing to Wales isn't a minnow squad, but losing to Fiji when they shouldn't have lost to Fiji.
John, rugby union's a sport that can't afford this result in this country. Enough goes wrong for rugby union that when the World Cup comes along, the Wallabies need to go well. So this really is a doomsday scenario for Australian 100%. Rugby.
All the badness throughout the last 4 years is meant to be, but it was building to the World Cup and now we've made it to the final of the World Cup or whatever. But all the badness over the last 4 years has led to this. Rugby union doesn't, like you said, they don't make money from the TV deal. It was $110 million over 2 years.
Yep, and they pay players like Joseph Suwali overs to join who are not going to have any impact.
So it's Angus Crichton. That's but confirmed apparently.
Right, okay, so he's another one. Yeah, and they'll have to pay him overs as well.
In the more than $1 million range. So it's like somewhere between 1.4 and 2.4 is what I read. And it's like the Roosters were, okay, just go because that's freed up some cap for them to improve their squad for next year. And, they've signed people like Dom Young and stuff like that. But
Spencer Leniu,
absolutely, like they got money for that. I wonder how the girls are going, like how the girls are going to go, because maybe they should take all the male money and give it to the girls. Rugby.
They're going to do something.
Yeah, but they had 85,000 people go to a game. Before the World Cup. So it's just something over at Rugby Union, Rugby Australia needs to be done. And the first step is to sack Eddie Jones.
That's 100%. So they got that one more pool game to go against Portugal, but who cares about that, John? That doesn't mean anything.
Even if they win by 70, it's irrelevant.
That's a meaningless game. And then, no knockout stage for the Wallabies. So bye-bye World Cup.
That's two teams who know they can't make the knockout stages playing each other. So who cares?
That's a non-event.
Yeah.
I don't think the TV ratings will be very high for that game, John.
Absolutely terrible. And then, we can move to the other massive disappointment that is Australia. The warm-up matches for the World Cup, Cricket World Cup. So before this, last week, we touched on it where we said it doesn't matter if they win or lose as long as they play well, and it gives us some hope after their failing in South Africa. Australia has now lost 5 ODIs in a row.
Yes.
I was watching it on Friday, as I said. I didn't watch the whole match. I just watched the Australia bat because it had like another 12 hours to go. It's funny because my nephew was like, why isn't anyone on the field? And I was like, dude, they're at lunch. They'll be back later. But he asked me in this game, what's a good target? Because he's never watched cricket or paid it. He's 11 years old, right? Yeah. Plays baseball, loves AFL, soccer, and basketball. Okay. And I said, if they set around 270, it's a good target, and it'll show me something like that I'm happy for, right? And there was 2 overs to go, and it didn't look like they were going to make 270, and then they did. And I said, it's good, they actually did well. But then I went to sleep, and I woke up, and I saw what had happened. And India beat them with, I think, 2 overs to go. Yeah,
do you want to run you through, do you want to go through game 1 first, John? Yeah. Game 2, yeah. So game 1 at Mohali, Australia made 276 all out from 50 overs, John. David Warner got 52 from 53. Mohammad Shami was man of the match. He took 5 for 51 from his 10 overs. India, in reply, they got, like you said, John, got the target in the second last over. They made 5 for 281. Shubman Gill made 74 from 63 balls. Adam Zampa took 2 for 57 from 10 overs. I know that doesn't sound too flattering, but he was the best of our bowlers. So that's why I'm reading it out. Yeah. India at one stage, I think India, they probably made it a little more tricky than it needed to be for them, John. They were none for 142 at one stage there in the chase. Then they lost 5 for 123, 5 for 123, sorry. So they made this win a little more tricky, only getting home in the second last over. India won by 5 wickets with 8 balls to spare in that one.
So the fact that they got home only in the second last over, I was okay with that. When I woke up and read what had happened. But the fact that...
so the Aussies did come back a little bit in that game, but then, last night / this morning's game...
they saw in that first game, the fact that the Australian attack only got 5 out, and then I read that it was like... They got 0 for $1 million and then managed to smash them out. And I was like, this doesn't look good. All right. I was very disappointed. Yeah. But we'll see what happens in the next match, in which India went out to bat first and scored 399.
Yeah, 5 for 399. Do you want me to run you through some numbers?
Yeah.
For that one, John? Yeah, India 5 for 399 from 50 overs. Shreyas Iyer got 105 from 90 balls. Man of the match performance from him, batted really well there, John, in that top order. Shubman Gill as well, 104 from 97 balls. So 2 centurions there for India. Cameron Green, and again, I know these figures aren't flattering, and far from flattering, but he was our best bowler, John. He took 2 for 103 from 10 overs.
Wow.
So 103. So that's getting in that region of Adam Zampa and Mick Lewis, who hold the record for most runs conceded in an ODI spell, 113. Cameron Green not too far off that, but he didn't quite go that badly. So in reply, John, Australia were all out for 217 from 28.2 overs. That was chasing a revised Duckworth-Lewis target of 317 from 33 overs due to wet weather there.
Oh, that revised was still 317.
Yeah, that revised target of 317.
Oh, because 399 is beyond a joke.
Yeah.
That was the
100%.
biggest. What was it? The biggest ODI score that India had ever put up against Australia.
Yeah, it's a great effort. So that 217 Australia made Sean Abbott. He made 54 from 36 balls with the bat, hitting 5 sixes. So a nice cameo there from Sean Abbott. David Warner again, John, among the runs. This is one positive for Australia in among a whole bunch of negatives. David Warner continues to make runs, 53 from 39 balls. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so because what you I was trying to explain it to my nephew, and I was saying, like, if they're getting around 50 each person on that top, because I had to explain to him the people who go out to bat first are the good ones, and the people who go out to bat last are the slightly less, like, it gets worse and worse and worse. So I was like, if they're getting around 50 at the beginning, then they'll get around, like, it can be like 10 or 20 at the end, and we're okay with like 270, 280.
Yeah.
But we are not okay with only 2 players getting over 50 and also all out for 28.
All out in 28.2 overs for 217, yeah. Ravi Ashwin was the best of the Indian bowlers, John. He took 3 for 41 from 7 overs. So Australia got off to a really poor start in that knock, John. They were 2 for 9 early after stand-in skipper Steve Smith got out for a first ball duck and they never recovered. India winning by 99 runs on Duckworth-Lewis. India leads the 3-game ODI series 2-0, John. Game 3 will be played on Wednesday night, Sydney time, for anyone who wants to put themselves through that punishment.
If Australia doesn't do well in this, we could be looking at a rugby union style.
Yeah, look, I know what you mean. The only difference being, John, that I'd say India are a very, very good ODI side. So, and I don't think, when Australia are at full strength, I think Australia are probably number 2. So I know it might seem hard to sort of comprehend that at this point, but I'm a bit more optimistic than the rugby team with this one, John. You got to remember we're going to play a lot of other countries. I think Australia are going to go well in this World Cup. I don't think they can win it. I think Australia and India could well be in the final, though, John. It just looks bad. I know it looks bad but we are playing against the best side going into it, so it doesn't look good.
It looks super
But
bad.
I do have more optimism than what I do for the rugby team, John.
Australia opens their World Cup, and it is that thing. So just to touch on again, it's everyone will play everyone.
Yeah, it's a different format this
48 matches actually. So Australia will open their World Cup campaign on the 9th of October. Starts at 7:30 p.m. Well, that's going to be a hard watch.
At least you'll be able to watch the first innings of it.
8th of October, sorry, against India. They'll play India, and then.
So there you go. That's the thing, John. That's the game that matters. These games. Let's be honest. This series in itself, it doesn't matter. But as you say, you want to be seeing better form. At this point.
This is with the rugby union. Mm-hmm. We kind of like these series don't matter. But there were warning signs, and now just based on... I know rugby union and cricket have absolutely nothing to do with each other, but based on the warning signs, I'm like really, really, really worried.
Let's bear in mind that Pat Cummins wasn't playing either, John, so we did, we weren't completely...
He wasn't going to prevent them from getting 300.
Yeah, I know, I take your point, but yeah, I am still hopeful.
But was Nathan Lyon playing?
No, Lyon wasn't playing, no.
Because this is the problem, right? Our attack, bowling is attack, right? Our attack is not going very well, actually, against both South Africa and India.
I don't think Stark played last night either, from memory. I don't think he was in the side. So
the teams
there's still players to come back.
The teams in the World Cup are Afghanistan, which we should beat comfortably. Bangladesh, which we should beat.
Yeah.
Then England, India, which India... and England could be an issue. Netherlands, which we should beat comfortably. New Zealand, which there's going to be a challenge. Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka. And out of those teams, based on current form, Australia sits in the bottom 5 of those to me.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing, John. Again, I know I'm playing.
You have rose-coloured glasses, man.
I know. I'm playing. I'm the positive one here at the moment. I get that, but it is a marathon, not a sprint. You know, it's a long tournament. That's a lot of games that have to be played.
They still have 9 more games.
Yeah. 9 games, and they got 2 warm-up games going into it as well.
Who are they playing in their warm-up games?
Who are they playing? I even think they could be playing the Netherlands in one of them, John. But you might want to check that.
Warm-up games. 2023. They're going to play. That's the Rugby World Cup. Yeah. I need to write cricket.
Just type cricket Australia fixtures. If you go cricket Australia fixtures. Oh, there you go. There it is. Australia Netherlands. Saturday, September 30. So if you just scroll down a bit.
And Pakistan.
Yeah, there you go. That's your 2 warm-up games going into that first match in the tournament for Australia, which is against India.
No matter what happens against India this week, I'm going to reserve final judgment for that Pakistan-Australia match.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they should smash. If they don't smash the Netherlands, though, I'll be letting it rip.
Oh, yeah.
Because, honestly, it's just the fact that they let India put 399 on them is really, you don't want to be setting negative records leading up to a World Cup as well. You don't build your team based on negative records.
Look, I'm not. There's no denying, John. I think India are going to be really hard to beat.
Yeah, that's what I said 6 weeks ago that India is probably going to win the World Cup on home soil. But I thought it would definitely be Australia-India in the final, and I thought it would be really a challenge, just based on what I've seen. So over the past few weeks with Australia, it may end up being England versus Australia. I mean, England versus India in the final.
Potentially.
It's just I'll be so sad because that will be Basketball World Cup, Rugby Union World Cup, and then Cricket World Cup.
Sorry, don't write it off yet. John hasn't started.
It's gone. It's over. I ain't watching it.
Don't let the rugby disappointment filter too much into the cricket. I know it's easy to do given the cricket team are not winning either. But I'm just trying to maintain some level of positivity.
I think maybe the wound is still too fresh from that rugby disappointment because that was only this morning when I woke up. I did wake up at 7 a.m. and just go, what the hell happened? This can't be right.
Yeah, 40-6, had to double check that score. Anyway.
So that's the cricket.
Yeah.
Is there anything else happening in sport this week? It is kind of a slow sport week.
It's a bit slower. Once you get down to the last couple of games of the season and the grand finals, it sort of does die down a little bit.
Yeah, and so next week there'll be on Thursday we got the grand finals.
Yep, preview show for the grand finals. Thursday we'll also have the results of the Brownlow medal, John, and the Dally-M medal as well.
And the final match of the India-Australia.
Yeah, and we'll have that result as well.
And nobody cares about Rugby Union
from
here on out.
Yeah, I think the Rugby World Cup, we're ready to strike that off our list, John.
We're all becoming New Zealanders. And then the following week will be actually a pretty dead week because it's the week leading up to the Cricket World Cup, and then the Pacific Championship is the following week after that. So
at least we will have grand final reviews to do on Monday.
Grand final reviews and a bunch of previews of.
But then the previews will be of the Cricket World Cup.
So there'll be competitions as well, actually. So Pacific Championship and the Cricket.
Yeah. So there's still plenty going on. Don't worry about it. Even once the footy finishes.
And there's a bunch of UFC and combat sports going on in October as well. So that's how long we go for, John, producer John.
1 hour and 18 minutes.
That's a short one for us, but we'll see everybody on Tuesday. No, wait, what's today?
Monday. We'll see everybody Thursday.
See everybody on Thursday for the previews.
Yeah. Grand final preview show.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. So see you all later.
See ya.